And welcome to another edition of the Bullheaded Podcast. I'm your host, per usual, Sean Tyson, here with Zoo and P. Bush. How are you fellas doing?
Doing all right, man. Chicago sports are in the shitter. Let's just open it up like that. Bears continue to suck. The Bulls blow Zoo exactly like we expected. We're not talking NBA today, but I just had to throw that out there. But 2-1 in fantasy this week. Can't complain. Herbert helped me in one and hurt me in another. So, I'll take the 1-1 there and you get the nice little difference maker and finish above 500 for the week. So can't complain too hard, unlike the man across from me, Andy Zoo.
Man, Monday Night Football, man. A lot of bad memories. I have PTSD. I didn't get much sleep last night. The game was so bad, that punt return for a tutty, playing against the defense, hasn't happened for the Chargers since 2019. So this hasn't happened in 4 years. And it's happened when I'm playing their defense. Jesus Christ. That game was so bad that I started working. I think I'd rather work than watch football right now, man. I swear to God. Fantasy football last night pissed me off, man. Pissed me off. I'm like, I have CeeDee Lamb. I'm cooking. He cooking. Almost 200 yards receiving. Having a great game. And then, Jesus Christ, man. I'm playing against Stephon Diggs. He gets a little fourth quarter tutty. I'm like, okay, it's getting a little close. Okay, just the defense. Defense, 11 points. Feeling real good. Drops 26. 26 points.
Not even a close call.
Not even a close call. I saw that. I'm just like, okay, Zach Wilson, bum. Chargers defense, Khalil Mack, Bosa, barbecue chicken alert. You see Zach Wilson. Jesus Christ, man. Jesus Christ,
Doesn't
have mercy.
The ball.
He's atrocious. Panic throws. He trashed. They should have got Josh Dobbs. That got balled out for his debut. But Jesus Christ, man. Fantasy football and the league I care about the most, man. Despair and sorrowness, man. That's what I am in. Sadness and sorrow right now, man.
What stage of grief are you in, Zoo?
I don't even know. I'm still in denial because I like my team. Yeah. Outside of Bijan's head coach and Tony P's red zone ability, man, I like my team. But Jesus Christ. Reevaluated my team. Just reevaluate.
Well, there's always next year. You can be a Cubs fan for the day.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Let me tell you, with fantasy, I know a lot of people, and I don't even know what week it would be for fantasy in terms of how long it is until the playoffs, but I will say with a lot of teams, like I said, I'm in 3 leagues. There is a lot of ups and downs. A lot of this stuff, we do draft guides before. We do all these prognostications about what we think is going to happen. And what's been like relatively accurate over the last couple of years is that whatever you think going into whatever league, it could be 14 team, 12 team, 10 team, 18 team, whatever league, it's not going to be what you think is going to be in fantasy. There is a method to it, but man, whether it's injuries or whether it's people like we were talking about before the pod, Tony P not performing, it's frustrating. That's why for me, what helps my sanity is I just mute the notifications Sunday morning and I just look around 3:30, 4 o'clock to see how my team's doing. And if they have a chance, that's when I turn them back on. If I'm getting blown out or if I'm winning by a lot, I just turn it off because it's like I don't want to jinx it. So I don't know. Fantasy has been a bear. The one thing I will say in terms of consistency is Jalen Hurts. He's always been there for me.
Always.
I know next year I was like, maybe I was dabbling thinking like maybe I'll take Anthony Richardson maybe later. No, I'm sticking with Jalen and I'm taking that until it just proves
he's been awesome.
He's the only one that's keeping me.
He's been awesome. Doesn't have bad games. Does not have bad games. Even a guy like Patrick Mahomes has had bad games in
off
fantasy.
Year.
Lamar Jackson had some bad games. Justin Herbert has some bad games. Even Josh Allen, I believe, had like an off week.
More turnovers,
Yeah, I feel like Jalen Hurts
for Josh.
has a bad game and gets you 20. Yeah, that's what he does.
Well, you want to know what it is?
Mainly because of those
pushes. It's the tush pushes. He literally has 6 points 6.1 if you give him the 1 rushing yard. And once you offset if he throws 2 picks in a game, he's still positive because you take into account that 1 rushing touchdown. And then obviously add in that he's got the deep ball threats. Probably one of the best deep ball tandems in the league in A.J. Brown and Devontae, who can both shoot right up the field, blow by you, or make a contested catch. And for a touchdown or just a big gain. So, yeah, man, Jalen Hurts, second rounder next year. He is a second rounder.
He's been a second rounder for me for the last 2 years.
But I mean, like, we're not talking we're not talking like 19, 20. We're talking like 11, 12, 13. I could see him end up going that high.
Not mad at that. Not mad at that. Not mad at that at all. But, salute to the people who are still undefeated somehow in their fantasy league. You guys know it better than we do. So we'll figure that out. But I kind of wanted to ask the guys a question I thought of earlier this morning when I was sending out podcast notes. And, the playoff races are basically a topic now because we are in week 10. And there's been a couple of teams who have shown up, and there's been some teams that are, we'll just say it right now, the Chargers, who have started off slow and they're starting to get their footing and their defense looks alive, as Zoo can attest to. But, I kind of wanted to put this and frame this as like, I know we do a betting portion of this show, and I wanted to frame it as a parlay. So basically how I'm going to set this up is you get two teams, and the two teams are the combination of the Browns and the Bills and the Chargers and the Steelers. And if you have one bet to place, money's not an option. You have a lot of it, and you have to put it all on one ticket. Which ticket would you choose? The Browns or the Bills to make the playoffs, or the Chargers and the Steelers to make the playoffs? And like I said, I don't have any odds. I didn't go look it all up. But P-Bush, where do you stand with these two tickets, man?
This is tough because I'll start with the Bills and Browns one because I am leaning that way. So I guess I'll just preface that I'm going to go with the Bills and Browns, and I'm going to back this one up. So, I do think of the four teams that you proposed, the Bills do have easily the toughest schedule remaining. Just looking at their schedule,
I looked at it.
We got the Eagles, the Chiefs, the Cowboys, the Chargers, and then they end with the Patriots, who can always give teams problems on any given week, and the Dolphins. Right now, we've seen how they handled the Dolphins. Right, we kind of, a lot of people may have faltered a bit. The game Sunday night against the Bengals, we talked about this as a big topic last week between these two teams. Bengals are clearly on the exponential rise, whereas the Bills have kind of plateaued a little bit. They've very much mirrored the 49ers struggles as of the past couple weeks. So, they're sitting second in the division. I think they're a full game back behind the Dolphins, still very much within reach. And we know that the Dolphins can have off games, especially on the defensive side. And we did see kind of a quiet performance from their offense in Germany this past weekend against the Chiefs. So the Browns are interesting. I like them a little bit more than the Steelers, and it's purely because of what we were talking about pre-production, man. Their defense is iconic. This has to be, I was telling the guys, I have them in one league. They put up 23 fantasy points, and not one of those, there were no 6 points for a return, a pick six, a fumble return for a touchdown, none of that. It was yards allowed, no points, turnovers, and sacks. This team doesn't. I know it's the Cardinals, and you can say all you want after trading Josh Dobbs, but to still hold any NFL team to less than 75 yards is ridiculous. So, that's just something to take into account with them. That's also a very tight division with 3 teams at 5-3 right now, kind of trailing about a game and a half, 2 back from the Ravens at 7-2. I don't see the Browns or the Steelers catching the division. I still think the Bengals will finish second. But if there are some contentions for that 7th playoff spot in the AFC, it's the Browns, the Steelers, the Chargers, and one other team that I think we're going to talk about here in a little bit. So I'm looking at the Bills and Browns versus the Steelers Chargers. The Chargers have impressed me. I think their defense has taken leaps and bounds the past couple weeks, especially on the pass rush side. They have 2 iconic guys in Bosa and Mack. You can't have better opposite edges rushing any quarterback. Sure, Zach Wilson, but any of them they're going to get pressure on whoever the quarterback is. I guess the only issue there, I think Josh Palmer going on IR is pretty huge. I don't think Clinton Johnson's ready to take on a wide receiver 2 role.
No, he's not.
Nope.
They really need to get Gerald Everett involved, and they need to get way more targets to Austin Eckler in the passing game if they really want to continue growing, because Keenan Allen can't do everything. He's getting up there. We still know what he can do, but you can't put everything on him. And then the Steelers, man, they're just relevant. They always have. I will say their running games looked a little bit better. Obviously, they have a tandem now. Jalen Warren's actually looked pretty nice. Najee's finally finding the end zone. Deontay Johnson's return was big. This takes pressure, a little bit more pressure off of Kenny Pickett. Gives more opportunities for Pickens, even though he only saw 1 or 2 catches this past week. Deontay still had the big game, and they took down a Titans team that is also feisty against whoever they're playing against. So I'm going to lean into the Bills and Browns, mainly because the Bills still have a chance at the division. and that kind of locks them up. And I just think of the other AFC North teams outside, or pretty much them and the Steelers. I just like the Browns a little bit more. Their defense will keep them in every game. And Deshaun's finally starting to get a little bit of a rep with Amari Cooper, which, as an owner in multiple leagues of Amari, very happy to see that. So
I sat him on accident last week.
Ooh, tough call.
Yeah,
This is a tough call, but if I'm putting any money down, I think the one with the higher caliber team with the better, even though they're only a half game up on the Chargers, technically the Bills, I still think that they are the more talented team of all four. So I'm going to lean that way.
Yeah. Interesting, man. For me, man, I just have to fade the Steelers. I have to say this again about the Steelers offense.
Yeah.
I have to say this again. Based on points scored this season, they have only scored more total points than the New York Giants and the New York Jets.
There you go.
New York Giants, who's down to Danny DeVito at third-string quarterback right now. That's what they're down to right now, throwing the football. Like, I feel bad for that franchise. Like, he's not an NFL quarterback. Yeah. And you're down to Zach Wilson, who might be bagging groceries in 2 years, man. Like, I swear to God, this guy is not an NFL quarterback. He's just not there. Like, he missed easy dink and dunks. Like, you got elite talents in Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, just getting limited by this kid's inept, just lack of skill set of a quarterback. Like, I don't even blame him. I blame the Jets management of spending a second overall draft pick on this kid and thinking this guy's going to lead the franchise and turn around this team. And clearly they made an awful decision. And the kid probably even knows it. If you give him some truth serum, he's like, I ain't no NFL starting caliber quarterback. Like at best, maybe a third string. Just a third string quarterback, man. That's what, like, he down there with DeVito, man. That's what his skill set's at right now. Because Jesus Christ, that offense is atrocious. Kenny Pickett, I know he's a second year, or he's like a second year guy, like getting the opportunity. He's just not there.
No, he's not.
He wears gloves, man. You can't trust a guy that wears two gloves off the football.
Watching his receivers, like Deontay Johnson, George Pickens, they get open a lot. They go good route runners. Like Pickens got more of an explosive ability, like the big threat ability. Deontay's a great route runner. Like there's a lot of throws at watching his game film. He just misses. Just miss it. Overthrow, and then you can see him put a hand out like, oh, I missed him. I'm like, I swear to God, it's like every two throws he misses his guys. And when you're playing football, especially on offense, when the defense misses a coverage and you miss the big play, aka what Jimmy G did and got himself benched for McConnell, like Kenny Pickett is sort of like that, sort of like Jimmy G's this year. You just can't miss these big play opportunities because you know what these elite quarterbacks do? They just get a tutty, man. Your defense messes up, throw it downfield, boom, 70-yard touchdown. So, like, these quarterbacks are just so limiting of a franchise, even though the defense has been elite, as always. Like, this defense has been historically, like, the Steelers, obviously, defense has been historically great, but not even this defense could withhold this offense, man. So, the Steelers, an absolute fade. I still don't know how they have, they have 4 wins? Yeah.
5-3.
Oh, five wins? 5-3, 2 games above 500. But they're 2 games above 500. Think about that. They've won 5 games, and their point differential is -30.
Yeah.
How do you have 2 extra wins? So those are barely wins. And then when they lose, they get their ass whooped. So they're one of those teams just like, okay, they're a very fraudulent 5-3 team, like about a regression to the main, aka the Atlanta Falcons style, man. When they started to have a hot start, but I knew that team was complete fraud, just an absolute fraud of a head coach. Shave that mustache off, man.
You got to work that in, Sean.
Jesus, Arthur Smith, my goodness, like that's the difference. Mike Tomlin's actually a real coach,
very competent.
But the quarterback situation is so bad.
Yeah.
It is so like Kenny Pickett is awful. He is awful. Like I know he's a young quarterback. Maybe he'll get better, but it can't get any worse. Because I think from his rookie year to second year, I do not see an improvement.
Pretty stagnant. Yeah.
I do not see that like that sophomore leap that I saw guys in Jalen Hurts who made significant leaps from.
That is a perfect example.
Like Jalen Hurts as a rookie quarterback, and like he was not that good. Like, objectively, he was missing throws and no downplay ability. Moore was just out there to be a physical rusher, but he worked on the offseason, improved his play, and it got him an elite weapon, and he took that step. So, Kenny Pickett has definitely not made that step. And I don't think it's the lack of weapons because Deontay Johnson and George Pickens are real wide receivers out there for him. So,
That
is why I'm fading that. They do win, but yeah, I gotta fade that pick because I do love the Chargers though. Still,
yeah,
that's the team I was very bullish on, and now they're 500. Like this is I think
they're crawling back.
They're a really, really good team. I feel like they're gonna get the wild card. Yep. They're gonna get the wild card in my books, especially like outside of the Chiefs. That division is open season. Like the Raiders fired everyone, and then the Denver Broncos is just an absolute atrocity going around with the coach and the quarterback situation and giving up all the draft picks and going all in on something that does not work right now. So that division is open season right now. So the Chargers are definitely the lead of that. And Justin Herbert has not even played that well the last couple of games.
Yeah, I mean, he's still doing all right, but not.
He's got a thumb too, so
yeah, he got an injury, so maybe that's it. And obviously, losing Mike Williams was huge again. So this guy just keeps always losing his weapons. Austin Eckler's been in and out of the lineup, but I saw some couple throws that he hasn't missed. And when you're that stature of an elite quarterback, you can't be missing throws. You just can't be missing throws when you're a top 10 quarterback. So I do like the Chargers, but I'm fading the Steelers. And
so you're betting Bills Browns then?
Yeah, Bills Browns. Like obviously, you talking about the Browns defense. Absolutely, it is phenomenal to watch that defense, even though the offense is
it's all right.
It's like Deshaun. You know my feelings about Deshaun Watson. He's completely washed. He's just washed. He's just washed.
Such a bad take. That's
Deshaun Watson.
He had an AC joint hurt. He's been hurt. Like he's not washed. Watch is Kenny Pickett.
He's not.
Like,
no.
Kenny Pickett has not top 5 anymore. But like, he's like a bottom 32, like bottom.
Kenny Pickett has never been good. Kenny Pickett has never been good, so he can't be washed. Yeah. You got to be at a stature somewhere, and then you're washed. But Deshaun Watson.
If you ask me, you want Dak Prescott or Deshaun Watson? I'm still taking Deshaun.
Prescott.
Right now, Dak Prescott.
Yeah, right now, Dak. But overall, no, I think Dak has more of a like his floor is lower than Deshaun's. I feel like he has these like really good games where he's like, you know what's good about Dak? He plays well. Like in the Eagles game, I will say right now he played great. But the script on Dak, because we can't do just one game. The script on Dak for years has been he beats up on the small teams, and then when it comes to big time games, you're not winning anything. And it's just like Deshaun. I think Deshaun has won more playoff games than Dak. I don't know. You can't quote me on that, but like I think he's done that. So I mean,
they're probably both like one. Let's be honest.
I think Deshaun's won at least 2. I think he's won at least 2.
I don't think we should be bragging
1, 2, but they're like even on that.
I don't think we should be bragging about either one of these.
Deshaun Watson's won 1 playoff.
Yeah, 1 playoff game.
Okay, 1.
But
I think Dak's maybe won 2 or 3, maybe.
Look, I think what he's saying is that his talent drop off. I mean, it's been insane from what he was before all of his debacle.
Yeah.
You could talk about his AC joint injury and all that. Look, he played against the Arizona Cardinals and he went 19 for 30. All right,
but I think that's the script too. I mean, it's all right. Like, listen, I'm a Deshaun defender, so like I'm not gonna ever be like he's
I don't know, man. He sounded more like Deshaun's lawyer, man. Like Jesus Christ, man. Is he your client or something? Because
we'll see. Zoo deal.
He has not played well this year.
Nobody see that, and that's not what I'm saying. Zoo deals in absolute.
You just said you would rather have Deshaun Watson right now.
Yeah, I would. I would. 1 game, yeah, I would. You're just going off the Eagles game. You've never been a Dak guy. You're going off the Eagles game, and now you're saying Dak's is top 5 guy. No, he's not. He's not a top 10 guy.
Say top 5. Dak.
He's not a top 15 guy. I think he's a middle of the road quarterback. He's a
top 10 to 15 quarterback.
You know what's hilarious? If you were to ask Dallas fans right now if they could swap quarterbacks, they would do it. They would do it. They would do it.
Deshaun?
They would do it. I swear.
Time machines don't exist, man.
Does anybody remember Trey Lance was literally getting rumored to play after Dak had that stinker against? I don't even know who it was. I don't know if it was the Rams or whoever they played. Like way back then, they were literally. And listen, that is another point in my book. They traded for Trey Lance. Why would they do that in the middle of the season if they thought Dak was the guy?
Because it was cheap.
Light a fire.
What do you mean cheap? They had they trade like a 4th rounder for him. That's not cheap in the NFL. A 4th rounder can get you great players. Answer the question? Why would they trade for Trey Lance if Dak is the guy? Why would they do that? That makes absolutely no sense.
Too many good quarterbacks
in the league, but 1 game. Why would they do that? That's crazy. Why would you do that? If you have
never had too many quarterbacks, why did they draft?
Jordan Love when they would never do that to. I can't say Patrick because he's a great quarterback. They would never do that to, I don't know, who's a top 6 quarterback.
All right.
A 7 quarterback. They wouldn't do to guys who's the guy.
Sam Howell.
They probably wouldn't do that to Sam Howell. That's a good point.
Here we go. This year, Deshaun's best game is 21 fantasy points. He threw for 289 and 2 touchdowns. All right, that's best. He's right now. I know he's been injured, but he's the 30th ranked.
That's a big part of it.
Fantasy, and I agree. No, that's completely right. Dak's 11th. Now he hasn't been injured, but he's had the last 3 games. He's put up 270 and a touchdown, 304 and 375 and 3 with only 1 pick. That's an 8-to-1 ratio at nearly over 300 yards a game.
What have we always said about Dak? And you've said this yourself, P. Bush. He does everything in garbage time. You guys are going off that game against the Eagles, and you're saying now he's like, no, you can't shift the narrative. Like guys can have great games.
The Eagles is close. What are you talking about?
Yeah, that was
a competitive game.
No. I'm saying that with the Eagles game, you guys are going off of that because he had a great Eagles game. But the book and the script on Dak and what he's been thought about his entire career, he's been a middle-of-the-road quarterback. And right now, Deshaun, I agree, has not been a great quarterback, but his ceiling and where I think he can get to is higher than Dak's. Dak has never been that high. He's just not playing.
Deshaun took a year off of football. That's a big deal.
I know, and I agree with that.
Anymore. That is, he's not the same.
We'll see. Listen, his team is 7-3 just because of his defense, but I'm just saying.
We have seen a couple games from last year, and we've seen a couple games of this year, and we have seen no fact to make that determination that he's the same guy.
Listen, you can have Dak, and I'll have Deshaun, and I'll beat you in that game. We can put everything you want on that. I guarantee we'll beat you in that game. No, we can just have as a player. Deshaun, I just trust Deshaun more. I'm not trying to bash Dak because he's a middle of the road quarterback. But the script we have on this podcast has not destroyed Dak, but we've talked about how he's been a middle of the road quarterback and he's not clutch. So all of a sudden now I understand if you're comparing to Deshaun has not had a great year. And you can't just poo-poo saying, well, he's just been injured. His AC joint is hurt. Like you can't just say that's a big deal. He could not play on that. And I think it's and what they've talked about in reports, that's a lingering issue. That's not just you got to fight through that. Like, none of us can play through an AC joint.
John, it's like Herbert.
Justin Herbert's got a broken. He's got a hurting hand. Yes, everybody's got injuries. I get that. But I'm just saying, I would rather and I like Dak. He's a decent quarterback. I want one of them on my team, but he's a decent quarterback. But I just think Deshaun's ceiling, if he gets right, is better. That's it.
His ceiling is higher, and I'll agree with you.
That's my point. I'm arguing. I don't think I said that Deshaun is a better quarterback right now.
In the past, man. That's in the past. I've seen it all. It's in the past. It's in the past. It's after 7 legal cases and a year off of football.
When nobody wants to talk legal, I'm not going to talk legal case because that's not in my pay grade. But what I'm saying, as a player, you're right. He has not played up to his potential. But I think if he gets right and gets there, he can get there. That's all I'm saying.
I just think
it is a big if, and I agree with that. It's a big if.
Here's the thing:
Zoo deals in these absolutes like you're either trash or you're not good. Like that's not how it works. There's guys that are in between.
Based on his year's production,
there's like a bubble guy.
Bad quarterback. He's been a bad.
Yeah, he hasn't been great, but I think he can get there. And Dak, we know what Dak is. He's gonna fall apart in the pressure. That's what he's gonna do.
But you know what Dak is. Whereas you're talking about an if and an uncertainty.
Yeah, I would rather deal with that than deal with what. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
And I'd rather deal with what I know. Go with the devil.
Well, what you know is going to get you beat in the first round.
Exactly.
And I want to deal with that because, like you said, we don't. I mean, Dak, he's a good quarterback, but he's. You know what we've seen the script with Dak, and they traded for Trey Lance. Like, what we got? What are we talking about? They don't believe in Dak.
Going to the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Well, he's better than Rex Grossman. I won't say
exactly. But my point is, you don't need to be.
But I don't want to disrespect him like that. But
you don't need to be a great quarterback.
Listen, listen.
If you have a great defense. But
I'm a Deshaun guy. So I'm just gonna side on the guy who I've seen be a listen. And we'll end it on this. And Zoo keeps saying that's never gonna come back. We don't know. Zoo says a lot of things never gonna happen, and it does happen. But if it were to hit, I've seen Deshaun get to one of the top 5 in the league. I've never seen Dak ever get close to that. So I'd rather bet on that guy than say, oh yeah, I'm good with the guy who's in the 12 to 15 range because I know what I'm going to get. You're gonna get a loser, who you're not going to be happy with. You're going to be pissed off that you got a guy who can't break through the ceiling. I think Dak is knocking on the ceiling. He can't break through it.
I don't want either one of these guys to be my franchise quarterback because one, you could also take into account that they're fucked with Deshaun. I'm sorry if we can't say that, but they're screwed. They gave him guaranteed money.
We're good with 30 minutes.
They're done. Guaranteed money to a guy who's not a guarantee.
Exactly. And that's the issue. So I mean,
people are just mad because he got guaranteed, but that's his agent. Salute to his agent.
Exactly.
Too bad.
Salute his agent. They fleeced him. They fleeced him. That's fine.
Yeah.
But he's never going to live up to that amount of money. I don't
think.
Dak.
Yeah.
Dak has.
Because I don't think when he signed that, my whole thing was that like I was like Lamar should have tried to figure out how to get that guarantee, but like I never came on here and was like, I think that contract's good. They're going to get Super Bowls after that contract. I think I came on here saying salute to Deshaun for getting that contract, but I don't think that was smart.
He took advantage of a desperate franchise. Yeah. That's what he did.
And to me, I always feel like it, and I feel like if he's at least to their franchise and what they're, I mean, I don't even know what the Cleveland Browns history is. I'm pretty sure my friend Jeff is probably pissed off right now. So because I should know it because he's talking to me about their franchise history all the time. But
Jim Brown,
I mean, if they're getting to the playoffs consistently, like that, Cleveland Browns should be happy with that, especially if they have that defense. That's why, like, if he restructures a deal and they keep most of those. Now, if I'm Deshaun's like agent and the GM, and I'm talking to him, like, look, hey, can you restructure this deal so we can keep these guys on defense here and we can make this a more compatible situation for me? But
well, let's put it this way: if they had a healthy,
I don't know. Look, Amari's nice.
If they had a healthy Nick Chubb, this team would be scary. I'll put it that way.
I think
they dominate time of possession with Nick Chubb, and their defense is the best in the league.
I also think
that injury out, man. Woo, this team could be sneakily a top 5 team in the AFC this year.
And listen, I'm even gonna say that because that's probably gonna be blasphemous. But it's like, yeah, I'm just not a big Dak guy. And I'm not trying to hear no arguments about like Dak. Like, yeah, he had a good game against the Eagles, and like you said, he could prove me wrong and break through.
He's had 3 good games.
He's been in the league for 10 freaking years. Like, congratulations. Like, if you're the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys, you need to be getting over the freaking hump. And maybe he does it this year because I will say Dallas's defense, and I know we're off on a tangent, we're talking whatever. Like, and I think Tony P is gonna be their gadget guy, and it's gonna be on Dak to win it. And I'd rather it be that way because it would prove me wrong. But I just feel like he needs to figure out a way to get over the hump because I'm just tired of the conversation around the Cowboys and his thing, or like him being the guy and whatever. Like, I don't know. Like, and you guys know I'm a freaking Deshaun guy. I just think his ceiling's higher. But speaking of the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Los Angeles Chargers, I will say I'm not going on that ticket because I'm with Zoo. He is a fraud. Kenny Pickett. The Chargers, like I said, I think Herbert, he's a good quarterback. He's great. He's playing through an injury. I think their defense woke up, but I also am concerned with their receiver depth. Quentin Johnston was a miss. I won't say it's a miss, but it's not a good prospect right now.
So far.
I don't know what's going on with Eckler. I think he's a good player, but they're just not involving him as much. Maybe because he came off injury. I will say though, the Steelers' schedule, like their schedule, dude. This is what's probably going to happen, and this is why I didn't pick it this way. Like I didn't switch it because I wanted to put 2 teams together that I felt like there's a reason why you wouldn't pick both sides because maybe the Steelers weigh you down more or the Browns weigh you down more. But like looking at the Steelers' schedule, they're probably going to make the playoffs.
I know.
And the thing is with the Browns and the Bills, and I know I just went on a rant about the Browns and Deshaun Watson, but like just off the schedule, I think the Steelers will have a better chance of making the playoffs than the Browns, even though the Browns I feel like they have a better quarterback because of their schedule. So then it's like now you're coming down to Bills and Chargers. And this is what I'll say about the Bills. I don't know if their defense is ever going to come back to where they're like elite.
Even with Vaughn.
And that's what scares me because Josh Allen is, out of all these guys, these 3 teams, like Josh Allen is the best quarterback. So like you side with the guy who's the best quarterback. And you know I feel like that's a guarantee they're going to make the playoffs. But I don't think it's about Josh Allen and that offense. I think that's kind of fine, even though we've kind of talked about his up and down.
They've gotten away from James Cook too, if you noticed.
Well, I think Fournette's probably about that because I saw some stuff. And
they got away from the running game.
Yeah, and I'm thinking they're going to feature Fournette, but it ain't going to matter because I don't think that's their forte.
No, Josh Allen's still the best running back.
He is the best running back.
He's still the best.
And I think
10 picks though.
Part of it, even part of that is I think the offense is still going to be eventually fine. I don't know. Their defense, when I was watching that Cincinnati game, like, and I know it's Joe Burrow and they got weapons, but it's just like over the past couple of weeks, they have not looked like a defense that come playoff time, if they're going against Kansas City or even like Jacksonville, I'll be like, okay, they're going to go out there and they're going to be good. Like, I'm not big on their defense. So with hesitation, I'm taking the Browns and Bills because then it's like that just seems like smart money, and they're probably more likely going to make the playoffs. But I strangely feel like out of all four of those teams, like I would probably put the Bills first to make the playoffs, but like the Steelers might be second just because of the schedule. And the Steelers, even though they can't score, it's like an intimidation thing with them.
They have a whole game on the Chargers.
They have this. It's like I don't know if it's a Tomlin effect, but every time they play, it just feels like if you don't blow the Steelers out in those first two quarters and you go into halftime and they're only down like 10 or 7, they're going to win the game because Tomlin, he's a master motivator, but I also think like they just it's the Steelers way of what they do. And I feel like teams respect that and don't like Jacksonville going in. I know Jacksonville won, but I feel like they were the only team this year that's like went in there and it's like, okay, the Steelers just smacked them around.
Shut them down,
like,
but they still only put up 20.
The Texans, I think the Texans beat them too, but that was
Texans destroyed them, I think.
Yeah, and I think that was at Houston. So maybe that was just, and Tomlin, quiet as kept, he's not really good as a favorite. Like he's kind of an underdog type coach, which is good. Like even though they're 8-1. Yeah, even though their schedule is easy, I still feel like they're going to be underdogs in some of those games, and that's what's going to propel the Steelers to win, to pick off some. Because I was just looking at like they're going to probably beat Green Bay. Cleveland toss up, they probably could win that one. They're going to lose Cincinnati. They're beating Arizona. They're probably beating the Patriots. They're beating the Colts. And then it's like the last 3 games. Who knows what, like Baltimore, they could be resting guys. Seattle, I don't know. Yeah. Like Cincinnati again, they got them at home. I just feel like the Steelers always get in this position where they're going to end up
coming down to the division.
They're just going to end up getting in the playoffs. And I mean, they're not going to do shit, but like they're going to get in the playoffs probably. So like that's why I split it up like that. But I'm still going with Browns and Bills. And like I said, I just went on a impassioned rant about Deshaun. Like my stock, I'm not leaving the stock. It's never going away. Like and listen, this is what's going to happen. If he's still like if he ends up
on that hill,
really, what's the deadline? How many games? How many years? You got to give me a time.
Well, no, this year is. He's got to show and improve. Like to me, I think he needs to go to the playoffs. Like if he doesn't get to the playoffs, and
if they don't make the playoffs, it'll be because of him. Because the defense is amazing.
Yeah.
And
that's
another reason why. Well, I can't see. The thing is, Chubb is a super massive, great back, but like I'm not going to say that's the reason why they don't make the playoffs. It's going to be to Zoo's point. It will be because of him if they don't make it. Because their defense, like we were saying way earlier in this podcast. Dude, like the Jets were the whole talk of the town, but it's really the Browns who were playing some ridiculous football in that. Like,
and what's the only
their defense
with the Jets situation? Their quarterback.
Well, Zach is.
But my point is, they have a great defense. They have a good running game. They do have some outside weapons. It's all come down to the quarterback play, and that's very similar to the Browns.
Yeah. And like you said, he has like Amari's an elite one, which I still don't understand why Dallas got rid of him. And then Elijah, I know Elijah's up and down, but he's got Njoku. Like he's got dudes he can throw the ball to. He's at least got one and a half.
It's a good offensive line.
That's another thing too. The offensive line is
forward and pretty good in the red zone. They're pretty good in the red zone because of the offensive line. So they get touchdowns when they're in the red zone.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm that hill. I'm dying on at least to the end of this year. And listen, if they make the playoffs, I'll probably never get off that hill.
Oh my god!
If they make the playoffs this year, I'm never getting.
Years just for you to get off the Deshaun hill, man. Find a new client, man. Find a new client.
Other clients is too easy. Huh?
If they win a playoff game, then I'll let you ride that out on the hill. If they make the playoffs and get manhandled in the first round, I'm gonna be like, all right. Unless it's because if Deshaun puts up 400 and 3 touchdowns, which ain't gonna happen.
No, that ain't. The 400-yard games are those are far. Those are far and few between. I think, like, I will agree with that. Like him, that year, the last year he played in Houston, where he was doing for 4 and
when he was like going toe to toe with Mahomes. That dude is.
No. Yeah, those days are definitely gone.
And but that's the feeling that he will never touch.
Yeah, to me, the ceiling, I think the new ceiling I'm talking about is like him throwing in the 250 range, 2 touchdowns, playing within himself, and letting the defense do what they do. Because you know what that's similar to, and I know this is blasphemous, and they're not even in the same tier because he's the GOAT. But like Tom Brady did that at the beginning of his year. He played within himself. He threw for 200 yards, and at the all-world defenses that everybody seems to forget about that he played with in his first couple years in New England. handle it. Like that's how Deshaun should play, which would be his ceiling. Like again, disclaimer, he's not Tom Brady. He's not Tom Brady, but just playing in that type of that type of game where it's 2 touchdowns.
The above average game manager.
If you're down 3 or if you're down 4, have a game winning drive, you can do that. But like, the 400-yard ceilings, I'm not trying to argue that. It's not happening. But I will say, speaking of like guys
400 yards
in Houston who threw for 400 yards, or was it 5? Did he throw
470, 5 touchdowns.
Yeah. Now that's a guy who I personally picked against. That is hilarious. He is probably the new Deshaun. Like I picked against when we had our, quarterback battle with Anthony Richardson and him.
Yeah.
And my whole thing was more so because I kind of thought Anthony Richardson, because of his rushing aspect and his ability to throw in spurts, I think was a little better than CJ. But what I've been proven wrong about is CJ not only can, like you say, he's not the athlete of AR, but his ability to move in the pocket, step up, move in, like he's got that pocket athletic ability in the pocket where he's moving his feet and he's making decisive throws. And the coolest thing about him is, okay, I know Nico Collins is taking a step. He's a nice guy. I don't think he's a true number 1, but he's a nice tall target. But the fact that like Tank Dell, who's his number 1, number 2, whatever you want to call him, is a rookie also, and he was a rookie who was thought of to be a nice slot guy who could make a name in the league. He's going to him on 4th downs. He's going to him on end of the game drives, and he just seems like it doesn't matter who his receivers. Because I got in not an argument, but like a competitive debate with one of my friends about because he's a huge Panthers fan. And he was just talking about like, well, you got to understand, like CJ and his weapons. I'm like, I don't know, man. If CJ was in Carolina, like I think Jonathan Mingo would be playing better. 5. I think Adam Thielen might be a top 5 fantasy receiver. I think what's the dude?
Miles Sanders would actually be relevant.
Trimble. I think the guy's Trimble. I think it's Trimble, the tight end, whatever.
On there too.
Yeah, like Trimble, the tight end, I think, because he's an athletic tight end for the Panthers. Like, I think he would be getting, because, Dalton Schultz is getting a, not resurgence, but he's playing really good. Like, he's playing really good with him because of CJ. Like, I said, I think it's just the quarterback, bro. Like, I don't think it's a system of, like, the Houston Texans have this huge, like, system of guys. And it's like, I was like, and I also told him, too, I was like, don't get me started on Dameon Pierce.
Dameon Pierce.
DeMeco Ryans, like he's also killing my theory about like defensive head coaches having rookie quarterbacks. Like he's making DeMeco Ryans like a genius. So to me, Houston, I didn't want to add them because I feel like it would have been too obvious an answer. Because if I would have took like Houston out and not Houston out, but Cleveland out and put the Bills and Texans, I feel like that just would have been too easy of an answer because I mean the Texans right now, I don't know what their schedule is, but they have a solid foundation. And with CJ, bro, like, I'm not picking him if they were to make the playoffs for him to just go buck wild and start upsetting Mahomes and Allen and all and Burrow, because that ain't happening. Because
he's got to get his feet wet first.
Yeah. He's got to get beat up.
And Sean, if you could do that your rookie year, I mean, dude, you take that. And I mean, I don't know if you have anything else to add to that, but I just want to say,
you good.
Passing game, man. That's all they got on offense. Dameon Pierce has not done anything.
Devin Singletary trash.
Devin Singletary, 2 yards a carry this past week. Now, to be fair, the Bucs are an extremely hard team to run against. Vita Vea might be one of the hardest, biggest dudes that you can attempt to run. He's the Vince Wilfork of the current day and age, man. If you're an old Patriots fan, man. But to your point about their schedule, they have the Bengals and a second division game against the Jags. Other than that,
didn't they beat the Jags?
I think they did.
Yes, they did. Yes,
then they got, but here's the rest of them: the Cardinals, Broncos, Jets, Titans twice, Browns, and Colts. They could win this division.
They probably will.
No. Now, to be fair, the Jags have 2 games on them, so that's really they have to beat the Jags
because they're like,
and if they sweep the Jags and tie them, there's your tiebreaker for the division, right? Head to head. I'm not saying they will, but they are definitely in contention with the Steelers and Browns for that 7th wildcard spot. I guess you could also throw the Chargers in there as well, because in my opinion, the Bills or Dolphins and the Bengals or Ravens are 2 wildcard locks. And then the 3 teams other than the Bills that you proposed last time, plus the Texans, are the other 4 fighting, with Texans probably having the best chance to win their division outside of the other 3, with the Chiefs and Ravens dominating. So I think they're one of the most fun teams to watch right now. As a Tank Dell owner, he is now a lineup lock for me. I have to.
He's a receiver too for me.
Air it out.
Yeah.
They air it out because they can't run the ball. And if you're doing that against a above average defense in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and you're dropping 39, he went 75 yards in 33 seconds. I was impressed.
No timeouts either, I don't think.
One timeout, maybe.
Yeah, one timeout, maybe. Yeah.
I was impressed. I mean, genuinely impressed. I think he's going to win Rookie of the Year.
Is he a top 10 quarterback right now?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
And he's going to win Rookie of the Year. Unfortunately, Zoo, I'm sorry. I know we all picked Bijan at the beginning of the year.
Just terrible.
Well, it's not Bijan's fault. It's
not terrible. It's that situation.
Fine. You could also argue maybe Puka, but he's quieted down a little bit the past couple
especially without Matthew Stafford.
Yep.
Yeah, that's Stafford.
No, Carson Wentz is. What do you mean Carson Wentz is here now? What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
Forgot about that.
Rookie of the Year, I'll have to right back up.
That former MVP. But yeah, so I know we're not including them exactly in that parlay discussion, but I do think they have a legit chance to make the playoffs, and they're regressing in a positive way, Zoo.
Yeah, they found their franchise quarterback.
They did.
It was real bad last year. They were one loss away from being the worst team in football last year.
Thank you very much.
But not gonna lie, like they got the best quarterback with the second overall pick. That's what happened.
Yeah, they did.
The Panthers traded up to get their guy, and the Texans sat there and probably got the guy they wanted. And all this guy's done is thrown 14 touchdowns and 1 interception. That is
takes care of the ball.
That is so absurd.
That's insane.
That is absurd. His TD interception ratio is 14-1, and it's on high volume. Like he's top 7 in passing yards, so it's not him just dicking and dunking and getting some cheap stuff. Like he's throwing it downfield.
Yeah,
and it's not like he has a stud receiver. Maybe these guys grow into a number 1 true receiver, but you guys and Nico Collins and Tank Dell that are up and coming wide receivers, but none of these guys are established as an elite wide receiver like a Tyreek Hill or a Stephon Diggs or an AJ Brown or a Justin Jefferson. So he's not just force feeding target. He's spreading the ball around from a Dalton Schultz to a Tank Dell to like this guy's spreading the ball around. So he's not force feeding one guy. The offensive line is still not great. I don't think it's a great offensive line. So it's like he has all these things against him, and he still has overcome. Like in the beginning of the season, it shows that it's not a fluke. Because I remember those first, it's like first 2 games, 3 games. Okay, maybe he's like whatever. He had a little beginner's luck. Like there's no game tape on this guy. He's just like balling the hell out. But maybe he'll regress. He hasn't regressed at all. Like he's total wide recession. Like you cannot say for quarterbacks that played in NFL that started multiple games. He's the only guy that can say that this year. He's the only guy. He's a rookie. He's a rookie.
The touchdown interception is ridiculous to me. I think that's easily
Rodgers-esque, man.
As a rookie. I mean, you're entering and look, the Colts have a solid defense, right? Titans are never that easy to play against defensively. The Jaguars' defense is good too. They're playing 6 games against solid defenses, and he's still having good games. Obviously, he's not going to be doing 41 fantasy points every single week, but he did that against a solid defense under pressure to win the game when everyone counted him out. Poised, calm, cool, collected, man. CJ Stroud is him.
He is. Who would have thought, man?
You know, I was reading because again, I'm in Panthers territory, and Frank Wright, who didn't really have a leg to stand on right now because his team is not really that good, and he's back and forth between calling plays and giving up play call, and it's just a mess. But I remember early reports in the draft, they were like looking at Anthony Richardson because Frank Wright was more of a mobile guy in that build that's stronger and could build to do more of a run game. But then I remember, even though they traded up to number 1, there were still internal conversations with him and I guess his staff, and then Tepper, who was kind of the new owner down here in Carolina. And he, Wright was on that Stroud train. Like he was putting out because I was just reading a bunch of that because there's this fan group that I'm in, and there was a lot of people, probably even I would say a week or 2 before the draft, were like they think Stroud's going to be the guy because Wright was kind of just I guess whatever they did, little pre-draft interviews, he was like really into what he was talking about, and just like he felt like he was a true leader. But then they took Bryce Young because it's just like, consensus, Alabama pedigree, all that, all that type of jazz. But
Ohio State quarterback.
The thing that's frightening about that situation is not only does Bryce not even. I'm not going to say he's an awful quarterback and he just seems a little out of place. It's just because he looks short, which he is.
He's very small.
He
looks small too. Not like the numbers.
No, he looks like a point guard.
Yeah, he looks so small. He
looks like a backup point guard, not a starting point guard. He looks like a backup
dude.
point guard. Yeah, he looks like a guy who's like seventh man.
It's not. He's like strong. Like physically, he looks strong for a short dude. He looks skinny. Now he looks small and skinny. That's not a good combination.
People got to remember that Drew Brees was a unicorn. Okay.
And Drew Brees was short, but he wasn't super small.
He was stocky. He was looking.
He was a stocky guy.
Yeah. Okay. Like Bryce Young looks like. He looks like me, man. He looks skinny out there. Well, I'm telling you,
it's the frame. It's the thing. Like, you know how like some guys who like Drew Brees probably coming out, he was smaller than what he ended up growing into be. But like still, if you probably looked at Drew Brees coming out of the draft, he still had a frame where it's like, okay, he's short as can be, but like if he gains weight, like he'll be able to at least survive in the NFL. And he survived mainly because he was a quick decision maker. But
he was one of the most mentally tough quarterbacks.
Yeah. And you have to be when you're that, because people always go back to
the city on your back too at that time. Katrina, oh my god.
And he had went through a whole bunch of stuff because he was with the Chargers and they let him go, and he was mentally. That showed you how mentally tough he was too.
Yep.
So, and we're not saying Bryce is not, or I'm not saying that Bryce is not mentally tough, but it's like the frame is concerning because you just look at a guy's like, even if he does put on weight, like he may be able to get to 210, 215 max, and who knows if he can hold that weight because that's just not how his frame is like built up. But with him, it's like the frightening thing is like not only is CJ balling out, it's like you kind of need to get as many receivers to help him as possible. And even with that, it's like how I know this, and I was saying last week, like the receiving core is like really deep this year, but it's like, man, you have to hit. Like it's not a receiver where it's like, okay, we need to bring him along. Like that receiver needs to come in and be a dude. Because then it's like you can kind of see if Bryce has it or not. Because you don't want a situation where the receiver is coming along slow and then Bryce is still coming along slow. And now you're, like basically, sorry to bring this up, Peebles, but like a Justin Fields situation where it's like you're kind of in a decision year and you're just like, what should we do? Should we just trade him away and go get Caleb? Like you don't want to do that. I feel like next year they kind of need to know, is this the guy? Because if not.
And here's the thing, Sean.
They
could have their pick, man. And they could be taking Marvin Harrison, but they don't have it.
They don't have
and that's the battle of Thursday night, fellas. The number one draft pick. Bears, Panthers.
Oh my God.
It's a win-win. It's a win-win.
That is this. You want to talk about
that's a hard game to advertise. That is a hard game to advertise. That's all I got to say.
If you're a Panthers fan, you know how sick you have to be. Like, not only are you going against the team that has your pick, your team is like awful, and you're on primetime Thursday night. Like I just feel like that is just you want to talk about a double slap in the face. Like
the NFL knew what they were doing. The NFL knew what they were doing with that.
Yeah,
game
they had to get these two bad teams out of the way.
Yeah.
They needed, listen, if they were smart, like I told them, and I don't know if they would have been able to get a first round pick, but they should have traded Brian Burns to get a first round pick from somebody. Mm-hmm. Like holding on to Brian Burns and trying to live this fantasy of that he's going to be a building block. Like it's over. He's in a part of his career where he needs to be on a contending team. Like kind of how, even though Chase Young, I don't think is as good as him, like Chase Young went to the 49ers. Like he went there because he's in a contract year and he's trying to play for a contender. They should have got a first round pick to help out Bryce because he's the future. If Bryce doesn't look good, it doesn't matter how good your defense is. So
exactly.
I will agree. Like you said, I think we're all on the Texas bandwagon, and them having the ability to maybe sneak out a few more wins and make it interesting towards week 15, 16, and 17 when it comes to the playoffs. I'll be tuned in because CJ, he has shown he's a baller. He's a baller. So we'll be looking into that. Right now, we're going to be transitioning into our week 10 bets.
There is no nobility in poverty. I have been a rich man and I have been a poor man, and I choose rich every fucking time.
Go ahead and start that off. I will say I feel like I got very, very lucky in my money line pick with the Washington Commanders. Mac Jones was driving. and it looked like they were going to at least put them in field goal range
Juju.
to bring it into overtime. And of course, the ball got tipped. Washington made a pick, and I was like, went ahead and went to 4-2 on my picks this year. So I was happy about that. I will say, the Patriots, like I think you said this earlier, people it's like they are a team that even though they're not good on the offensive side of the ball, they are going to give you a tough time. They're going to play you tough. And, I kind of just figured with Mac Jones throwing it to Demario Douglas, I didn't think that was going to be a great connection. And he had some catches. I saw his fantasy score. He had about 11 points. So, maybe in the future, I won't do any type of parlays when it comes to picking against the Patriots because you're dealing with Bill Belichick. But I'm happy I was able to sneak out of that one. So, people, I don't know how you did on your bets.
Missed on both, man. Back to my normal. Kamara, man, against the Bears, just an absolutely tough week. Taysom Hill was just the king of that offense.
I got to get him off waivers.
Derek Carr had a nice game.
Plays 3 positions.
Yeah, I know.
He legitimately rushes the ball, throws the ball.
Yeah, he's another cheat code.
He's a cheat code. I mean, he's the Swiss Army knife that has probably, of all tight ends, you could probably play him and have the highest floor of most tight ends outside of maybe Laporta.
He's like
Kelsey.
top 6.
Especially with his usage lately. Like
his usage has been
his usage in the beginning of the season was very low, but now like you see him using.
You know who he's leading into? Situations. He's leading into slant boy himself, Michael Thomas, man. Because Olave is obviously going to get his targets. Kamara is going to get his usage. Taysom Hill is the third option. Honestly, you could argue he's number 2 right now. But yeah, Kamara missed last week. Honestly, I just thought the game script would go differently, but the Bears somehow took a lead early. And it kind of forced the ball into Derek Carr's hands. Tyreek Hill, man, the Chiefs decided to take him out of the game, and the Dolphins decided to take Kelsey out of the game. So it was just kind of a who's gonna make the big play out of the second, third, and fourth string options. So yeah, unfortunate this week. So I'm gonna go with a nice, beautifully safe bet to start, man. Christian McCaffrey against the Jaguars. The only thing I'm concerned about here, Debo might be coming back this week, so you could argue that some target share might go down a little bit.
Well, if it's in the red zone, it's CMC time, though.
Exactly.
That's one thing. Yeah. That's one thing. He always gets the high value touch.
He's going for 18 in a row. I'm expecting his odds to be, I think it's opening around minus 200, if not less favorable. I could see it pushing minus 220, minus 230. So I'm pairing him up actually with a guy who has struggled for great games, but he finds the end zone most weeks, and that's Brian Robinson Jr. against the Seahawks, man. The Commanders, to your point, Sean, earlier, Sam Howell moves the ball. He likes to air it out. It opens up lanes for Brian Robinson. He scored both times against the Eagles this year. That's impressive in and of itself. He finds the end zone. He's not giving you 20 points a game in fantasy, but he somehow gets 40, 45 yards, and he scores a touchdown. And I just think this game script could end up being pretty high scoring. And rather balanced. I know the Seahawks have been relatively impressive, and they're coming off a very bad loss against the Ravens. So I'm kind of trying to offset the extremely high value with McCaffrey to getting a little bit more of a long shot to make this parlay a bit worth it. But a guy that also gets a lot of red zone looks and is clearly the dominant back over Antonio Gibson.
Interesting. Man, those toddy picks, man, it's a hard thing to do.
It is a hard thing to do,
man. Anytime touchdowns,
just look at your fantasy team, Zoo. I know, man. I know.
Dude, man, I'm praying for some tutties, man. For me, man, shout out to the Kansas City Chiefs. Easy cover, man. So easy. I'll tell you. Kansas City, when it was 2.5, and I even saw the line go down, so people were betting the Dolphins. So it went down to minus 1.5. So you could have got him pretty much winning by 2 points. And then they scored 2 touchdowns. I knew it was pretty much over after that because Chiefs don't blow games. So that was an easy dub. Thank you, Patrick Mahomes, man, because it was, like you said, it was even the Travis Kelce show. It was the others. Like Justin Watson and like
Rashid Rice.
He got a touchdown. Like he was just spreading the ball around. But that's what happens when you have the best quarterback and the best coach in the game right now. So it's easy money betting on them. So that pick minus 1.5 for the Chiefs. We will not be seeing that again because that was just given because of the Broncos' reaction. Losing to the Denver Broncos obviously made that spread happen. But for me this week, man, I'm going to bet on a team that I was hating on the offense, hating on the Pickett, man. But when I see the Green Bay Packers play football, -3 at home against the Green Bay Packers, man, the Green Bay Packers, that is an awful football team this year. That is an awful football team. Because I remember the beginning of the year, oh, Jordan Love showing a little
3
something.
good
Even though,
games.
yeah, like he had some statistically
The
some
Bears
good
game kind of.
Yeah, the Bear game obviously juiced up the stats. Obviously, when he let
Always.
38 points, 38 points. But I saw that he has some accuracy issues downfield, missing throws to Luke Musgrave. I remember pointing that out. But now, like he was able to beat up on a Rams team, but barely. Like this Rams team with a quarterback that like Ripley, like this guy's awful. He is so bad at football.
So bad.
So they obviously took advantage.
So bad for him.
It was a struggle for them to get to the midfield line with guys like Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. Like those guys couldn't get any good looks with this guy throwing the football. So they were to beat on a bad team in the Rams without Matthew Stafford. But now you guys, the Steelers team right now, like the Steelers team, as you said, they just somehow able to squeeze out wins. I don't think they're good. But this Packers team, I think, is an awful football team. I think it's an awful football team because what I've seen from Jordan Love right now, he might not be in the NFL in 4 years. 3-4 years, man. Like he might not. Like there's a reason he got a nice little smaller contract extension. Like the Packers don't believe in him. They don't believe in him. So he didn't get like a lot of money in his extension. And as you see from this guy's production, 12 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. That's it. In a pass-heavy league. Like, obviously, the weapons.
And he's got weapons.
Yeah, like the weapons, like Aaron Jones. Like, he's been in and out with injuries, so I'll give him a break on that. And Christian Watson has with the injuries and stuff. But Jordan Love leading an offense right now, it's just not a pretty sight. His QBR is 22nd overall. Like, the guy only has 1,700 passing yards. Like, he is the definition of.
I'll take Trubisky over him, man.
Maybe, because when I watch this Packers team with Jordan Love leading the helm on offense, it is a struggle to get downfield. It is a struggle to get first downs. And obviously, like AJ Dillon, like he's not the greatest running back. Like he's just a meatball.
He's not.
Dude, he just goes. He got one move, go straight. Like he's a big dude, so he's a trucker. But no agility, no left to right skills. And Aaron Jones been not as good, obviously getting banged up. And now he's getting older with age. So he can't be the elite running back that he was under Aaron Rodgers tutelage. So, my God, this Green Bay Packers team is awful. They got their win, so they got a little happy. Oh, beat on a bad teams. And they're going to get back to losing. Because before that, they were on a 4-game losing streak. And they lost to some bad football teams. A.k.a. the Raiders and the Broncos and the Vikings who have had an offseason. So, my goodness. I'm out on the Packers and 3 points only. It's going to be a low-scoring game. That's the problem. It's going to be a low-scoring game. But field goal, let's go Steelers, baby. At home. At home. That's the thing. It's at home, and it's only -3 against a bad football team. So I'm going with the Steelers.
That at home really helps.
Yeah.
Because if that was on the road, I'd be like, I don't know, because I don't trust picking on the road. But yeah, that being at home. TJ Watt's going to be getting Jordan Love 1 trillion times, and he's going to make that life living hell for him. So I agree with that pick.
I like that pick. Right after you absolutely laid into him, Zoo.
Oh, I did, man. I was going to say, I'm telling him as a playoff contender team, I'm like, whatever. If they even make it, which I would be surprised if they make it, they're making zero noise. But against a bad football team in that Green Bay Packers, and that's a bad football
at
team.
Home.
Yeah, that's at home against a bad football team, and it's only you got to win by more than a field goal. I'm taking that every time.
Yep.
Taking that every time.
Listen, with Jordan Love, too, that was a little mini hill at the beginning of the season I was on. But the reason why I had to, kick dirt up on that hill and walk off and find a new hill is, I know Christian Watson, Romeo Dobbs, Jaden Reed, a guy they drafted in I don't know what round, but he seemed like a pretty good player at the beginning of the year. They got dudes they can throw it to. Now, I know Watson's been hurt, and Dobbs has been there. Reed's been there. Aaron Jones has been in and out, but like I made the point about Justin Herbert a couple pods ago when they were 2-4 and they had lost that game to the Chiefs. It was just like, man, at some point, if you're the dude, you got to show me flashes of being great. You got to have at least 3 or 4 game streak of being really good at football. And you say you have 4 games of where people Stroud, for instance, even though he's a rookie, is he's had a string of games this season where it's is he a top 10 guy? Maybe he is a top 10 guy. People are having that conversation, even though it may not be true just yet. We haven't seen that conversation with Jordan Love. So it's kind of like you said, he got the small extension. I don't think the Packers really believe in him. And I think next year they probably go into the season, start with him, but they may draft his replacement either in this coming draft or they're going to be looking at, which I think they should do in this draft because there's at least 4 or 5 capable quarterbacks that are draftable that you would say at least have first or second round grades. So And that's a tough one because being behind Aaron Rodgers, you're thinking like maybe he gets a little bit of that, but it didn't rub off on him at all. So
it did not rub off on him, and he's playing like a rookie, but he's not a rookie.
No, he's been in the leaague for 4
years.
He's
been in the league for many years right now. So he's learning on the sideline, been an NFL professional. But the way the interceptions this year have been awful.
Dude, that extension was just a polite, okay, we'll hold on to you for a little bit longer, pretty much from the Green Bay Packers.
They're like, Jesus Christ.
That's why I feel like as a quarterback, like a young guy, you need to be in a situation where, like Mahomes, I feel like it's so rare because I do think it helped him sitting that year, whatever he did. But I think him being under Andy Reid, even if he had to come in as a rookie, he would have made a whole lot more mistakes in that first year, but he still would have became who he became because he has Reid and Patrick Mahomes is so talented. I do think the best teacher for young quarterbacks is just to get out there and play. Because, like I said, as much as we're bagging on Bryce Young, like if he was sitting on the bench, I don't think any of us or any of the fans of the Panthers would be like, oh, he's got potential. Like, you got to get out there and play and see if you got it or not. Because that's how most of the guys who are the top 5, top 10 guys, they all got out there and played and showed they could play. So it's just that's just how it goes. But for me, I was literally just maybe 10 minutes ago yelling and defending him in terms of his honor, in terms of, hey, I think this guy's still a dude in this league. The Browns and Ravens are playing this weekend, and I think the line is like +6. I was looking at that and thinking to myself, like, okay, Deshaun had 1 game under his belt. He did all right, but it's the freaking Cardinals. Who cares? Like, everybody's going to have a decent game against the Cardinals. But to our point, all of us can agree, defense is pretty insane. Like, it's reaching levels of, people shall never speak of the 85 Bears as just blasphemous, but they might be a tiers below that.
Yep.
I'm interested to see what Lamar does against that defense because I do think because this is a division game that perfect example. They're not even in the same stratosphere, Denver and Kansas City. But when you get in these stupid division games these weird division games, and for example, I think the reason why Kansas City lost is Patrick Mahomes. They kept saying he was sick. But I think Patrick was like, that's the freaking Broncos. Like, I'll go out there, throw a couple touchdowns to Travis Kelce, and I'll just get out of here. And it's like, yeah, but you're still playing a team with the division who kind of knows you. And I think with the Browns Browns and Ravens, they know each other really, really well. Emotions are evolved. Myles Garrett's going to be chasing Lamar around.
Lamar hasn't been that great. Let's be honest.
He's been okay. Yeah, he hasn't been. Like I said, last week I played against him. He put up like 12.5 fantasy points, which made me super happy.
He got 11.
Dude I was playing, he had 12.5. So it's like, for me, I was happy about that. Lamar has been steady, but he hasn't been like a game breaker. He's been relying on the run game and the Ravens defense, which is really good. But it's not as good as the Browns. But I'm interested to see how he does with Myles Garrett coming off the end. Cleveland's back 7 is really, really strong, especially that back 4.
This could be insane. A 13-10 type of game.
Yeah, and what I think will be the biggest factor is who's going to turn the ball over. And I don't know what the condition is going to be. I'm not too keen on. I don't know what that would end up becoming a factor, like rain, snow, whatever. But I do think who's ever able to cause the most turnovers is probably going to win this game, which I don't know if I could pick. I would probably say Cleveland just because I think their defense is more elite. But I do think with Cleveland and Deshaun, if they just keep the game plan of Deshaun, hey, you throw 20, 35, in that range, 20 and 35 passes. I'd rather you trend towards 25 passes, complete at least a decent amount of them. Kareem Hunt is finding the end zone, even though I don't think he's the back he used to be. He's finding the end zone, using different facets of the running game. Mari Cooper, he's been eaten when Deshaun has played, and he's an alpha. And I like Baltimore in their defense, but I don't know who could maybe keep him in check. And for me, this is selfishly because my buys and how they're setting up in one of my fantasy leagues. I need for Elijah Moore to have a 10 to 15 point game my flex. That would be nice. That would be super, super nice. And maybe Deshaun just figures out like, hey, I got another guy over here who can get in and out of breaks and can get me easy first down. So maybe if he takes advantage of that, that'll be something that could get across, or that could get across for the Cleveland Browns and playing the Ravens. So the line, Vegas Insider got it at +200. And like I said, I always like to find something that's over the 190 mark. I like this one. It is in Baltimore, which is the reason why it's probably +6. But man, I kind of like, Cleveland in this one. And I think it's mainly because of the defense. As long as Deshaun is not going crazy and turning the ball over, I think they have a really good chance. Because the thing about Cleveland, too, is I think they're still fighting the stigma of being the Browns. And I still think some teams look at them as like, it's just the freaking Browns, man. Like, I know they got Deshaun, whatever. Like, it's still the Browns. Who cares? And I think they get a little bit of that, and that helps them because sometimes teams look at them and don't, take them seriously. And I don't know why you would think that because that defense is for real. And like I said, respect to the Ravens. Their defense is for real as well. But I don't know, man. +6, less, it's a touchdown game basically without the extra point.
They did work them. Let's be honest. They worked them back in week 3 or 4 or something
was like
that.
28-3. Lamar Jackson had two touchdowns.
And I want to say that I don't think Deshaun played. I think it was DTR.
Yeah, it was.
And he threw
quarterback.
I'm looking it up right now. 3 interceptions.
3 interceptions.
So
DTR played that game?
DTR
I thought it was PJ.
played. No, that was the one they gave the DTR.
Oh, the first, yeah.
And I think that's also the one that lost it for him.
Yeah. He had that decent preseason, and they gave him that shot. Yeah.
Also remember that was pretty fresh off the Nick Chubb injury. Deshaun was hurt.
Emotions were low.
Yeah, they were very low.
People were. I wouldn't say that. I mean, they're grown men. They probably weren't crying and emotional, but emotions were low, and they were frustrated. So I'll give them that little mulligan, and we'll see. Like I said, that's the one that I'm keying on, just because it's division games, man. Like the division games, I don't think there's division games where, and there might be divisions that teams get blown out, but when you're talking about those games, they're usually pretty close. They know each other too well, so we'll see how that works. But like I said, this is the end of the podcast. Make sure you guys tune into bullheaded_pod on Instagram. Basketball, especially college, is back in effect. So I'm doing a bunch of reels, introducing the new players and all the types of teams that are supposed to be in contention come March Madness. So guys, tune in for that. NBA is locked and loaded. Be honest, don't really care for the in-season tournament. I think the courts are trash. The jerseys are trash. I think it's just a weird concept people who are not diehards like us. Like I watch NBA games, so I don't need to be like little little treat. Like, hey, here's the in-season tournament. Tune in. Like
what they're trying to do is just to get eyeballs during NFL season because that's their main competition.
And nobody's gonna start watching.
It's not gonna work. I love the NBA so much.
Yeah,
the play-in tournament, I thought it was a terrific idea. Added more urgency for the regular season.
Play-in tournament
makes the regular season more important with the top 6 seeds and makes 2 additional teams that are out of the playoffs have an opportunity to make the playoffs. So more teams are trying at the end. That made complete sense. Made sense on all levels. I thought it was a great idea and it's worked out perfectly, ratings wise, and people love it now. But this in-season tournament, I don't even get it. It like you're taking regular season games and making specific games part of your tier, your count as W's or counts as points, and having a little mini tournament like a final elimination tournament in Vegas. I know what they're trying to do. They're trying to get that sponsorship money, man. That's what they're trying to do.
Yeah. Just creative ways to get more money.
Like in-season tournament sponsored by whatever, Chipotle or something, man. That's what they're trying to do right now. Good luck, Adam Silver, because I don't think it's going to work. Because
it might be a one and done, Zoo.
It might be. They might scrap the idea after a season because I'm just like, I know what they're trying to do, but this ain't it. This is not it. Which is sad to say.
Listen,
having something fun would be pretty cool for the NBA regular season because it's so long.
The play-in is, like you said, is a major success. Just be happy, like you said, to your point about the sponsors and this is not about the fans. They keep trying to talk about this as the fans want this.
You know what it's about? It's about the up and coming TV contract.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Just say that. They want to hide behind like we care about the fans and we're gonna make these cool jerseys and we're gonna make the courts all like when I saw the courts, because I didn't even know they were doing the courts like differently. I thought that was just a rumor because I saw it on Twitter. I was like, I thought I was, and then I saw it. I was like, wait a minute. It looks like NBA 2K. Like it looks like like you did like a custom court. Like you just was like, I make a custom court and I got a creative play and let's play the park or whatever. Like it just looked Bush League. Like it's the NBA. It's the same thing with the NFL. Like the NFL has jerseys. They play around with some alternate stuff. but they have traditional jerseys and traditional schemes. That's what makes the NFL great. Like the NBA is trying to fall into this whole.
If it ain't broke, don't fix
it.
it.
Yeah, man, just leave it alone. You have your solid fan base, and it's a global game. Like you're fine. They're trying to be the NFL, and they just won't ever be, especially in America. But like I said, if you want to hear maybe more rants like that, tune into our TikTok, which is bullheaded_pod is the same as that. Bullheaded X64 on YouTube, Crunchroll Knows on YouTube as well. Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts. Like I said, if you guys are on Google Podcasts, hit me up in a DM on Instagram, TikTok, whatever, to see where you can also listen to it, because I think they're going to be ending it probably around December 21st, 22nd. They're going to be transferring it and making it to a whole different podcast sector, which I don't know what it's going to be called yet, but make sure you guys hit me up and see where you can also listen to the podcast and watch it. So for me, Zoo, and P. Bush, we are